Welcome to Good Morning Hospitality, your one-stop shop for the latest news, noteworthy trends, and thought-provoking discussions across the industry. From hotels and short-term rentals to all things travel and hospitality, you'll find each episode equips you with the information you need to start your week. Join us on Good Morning Hospitality every Tuesday, wherever you get your podcasts. Good morning, Sarah Nandapri. How are you, my friend?
Good morning, Leo. How's it going, buddy? I missed you last week. I know. I'm glad to be back with you.
I refused to do a show in your absence. I thought if I can't have Sarah Nandapri, no one's good enough.
I appreciate that. I thought you were going to get somebody else. I was going to lose my job. Never return again. Nobody likes your jokes. No, just kidding.
No one would have me. I asked everyone, and no one would have me. They were like, "Is Sarah going to be there?" I was like, "No, she's not. I'm busy. Can't do it."
Oh no. Well, I would love to say it was a week of rest, but it was not. I went to Tomorrowland, the electronic music festival in Belgium, where the weather is terrible and the music is fabulous. So you win some, you lose some. But yeah, it was absolutely incredible. I don't think they should call it a walking festival rather than a music festival, because there was a 45-minute walk from the camping, because we were camping, until to get to the festival grounds. And then there were 16 stages. So from one side of the festival grounds to the other, there was 45 minutes walking. So if you had a DJ here and a DJ over there and somewhere in the middle, anyway, summary, average of 46,000 steps a day for 4 days. Wow. And an average of 4 hours of sleep a night, because people don't understand that we be old and need to go to bed. So when we would get back to the campground, all these young people had their boom boxes out until like 5 a.m.
So my question for you is, and maybe you were slightly on the older side of the attendees of the conference, which is fine, which is totally fine. Will you go again, or is it too much walking?
I actually would go again. I would be.
You do love walking, though, don't you? So
I love walking. I love walking. I loved the festival. It felt like a conference. Like, that's how exhausted I was at the end of the day. I remember being like, that's the most exhausting conference, and everybody was like, this is a festival. But it was absolutely incredible. I would definitely go again. I would have a better camping setup. There were some real professionals, and ironically, I thought we were going to be the oldest people in the crowd. We were definitely not. There were people who have been going to that thing for 20 plus years that were I don't know, probably my parents' age, but they had a good camping setup. So they knew what they were doing. I mean, they brought a massive gazebo, and they had all the chairs and tables, and they had the big old tents that you can fit a family of 12 in, and everyone can stand up. So there were some real professionals.
I love that. It is about camping, isn't it?
Yeah. I'd go professional.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely, camping and age, I think, are two things that definitely come together. Yeah, the older people know what they're doing, don't they?
Yeah.
Well, look,
they've been around.
We had a similarly fun weekend. It's not as wild as that, obviously, but we live in the epicenter of Brighton, where the Pride Festival takes place. So it was Brighton Pride, and we had, I think it's something like 500,000 people descend on Brighton. That's a stat I heard from a restaurateur. So that's an unverified stat. So please don't check that out on Gemini, anyone, because I fear it's inflated. But it was wonderful. And our community, our neighborhood in Brighton is the epicenter of the event. There's a stage, they put a stage on the street. People just go wild, have a great time. And our 3.5-year-old, nearly 4-year-old daughter loves drag queens. So for her, it was sort of a million selfies with lots of different drag queens who obviously were enjoying the attention of Sadie. But I think she thinks they're kind of otherworldly. She asked if they sleep. She asked where they live. They were the superstars for her. And obviously all the music was, they're all on stage, different times, all that sort of stuff. So she absolutely loved it. So we spent the entire weekend, not even on the inside of the fence, because it was over 18s only. So we were kind of on the fence, sort of hugging the fence, watching drag queens perform for the entire weekend. So yeah, good times in Brighton, I tell you.
That sounds incredible. I love Pride. It's just such a, everyone is so friendly and so warm, and it's fun and colorful, and the costumes and
yeah, it's good vibes. Love it. Yeah, it's good vibes. It was very, very, very good vibes. And obviously in our neighborhood, all the pubs were heaving and the restaurants were heaving. And so, yeah, it was a lot of fun to be able to dip in and out and go back and forth, because we live right in the middle of it. All right, gang, look, we've got to get into it, because we've got so much to talk about this week. We were, let's start by saying we'll start at the end. So we've got some an earnings report from Booking.com, Sarah, that you're going to take us through a look at some new Airbnb ads that maybe reveal a strategic direction there. One that's, I think, been pushing in a direction for a while that we've noticed has been growing. And then we are delighted as well to be joined, to have our invitation accepted by Andrea, the CEO of Spacest, who've just acquired the now defunct corporate platform TheHomeLike. So without further ado, let's bring him on and we can talk about that deal, and then we'll get to the other stories afterwards. Okay, so we're delighted to be joined by Andrea Degli Innocenti, which I think I pronounced correctly. Who knows? Andrea smiling. Okay, maybe. Andrea, my friend, welcome to the show. How are you?
Very, very fine. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks for joining us, buddy.
Yeah, we're excited to have you today. Andrea's appearance comes after some big news that came out. So Andrea's company, Spacest, has acquired the rental platform that was shut down earlier this year, TheHomeLike, which was one of the largest operating in Europe. They were operating for over 10 years and at the height had just over 70,000 properties that were midterm and particularly focused on corporate rentals in Europe. So Andrea, thanks so much for joining us. I think I'd love to start just by hearing a little bit more about who is Andrea, what is your background, what brought you to Spacest, and then we'll get into some of the details of the deal as much as you can share, obviously.
Okay, of course. It's a pleasure. So basically, I am 32 years old. And I'm born in Florence, near Florence, let's say. I've always been, after studying in business, I've always been passionate about the startups ecosystem and technology itself. So this kind of bringing innovation in the more old school, old style economy has always been my ambition, let's say. So I've also always been very passionate about entrepreneurship. So I've always done a lot of things in this kind of entrepreneurial style. Many things like a shoes brand. Then I've tried more in the app ecosystem, and then I founded the company in the tourism industry. But it doesn't last a lot because COVID happened. So then we founded Roomless, which now is Spacest.com. But the initial brand was roomlessrent.com. And here the vision has always been very clear to digitalize and simplify the mid-long-term rental markets. So being a marketplace that gives everybody the opportunity to rent a place digitally and safely from home. Okay, this has always been very important for us. So that's basically what Spacest.com is now. For what concerns TheHomeLike, to be very specific, we have acquired domains and trademarks because TheHomeLike ceased operations. So the company is not running anymore. We have decided to do this operation because we really think that TheHomeLike has brought a lot of value in our industry, in our ecosystem. And we think also that TheHomeLike brand is very recognized. So they have helped a lot of landlords, a lot of tenants too, with their experience in the mid-long-term rental industry. And with this kind of acquisition that we have done now of the domains and trademarks, our ambition is to keep helping those users with their properties and their experiences in the mid-term rentals.
Mm-hmm. And based on kind of that brand recognition and the properties that were listed on TheHomeLike before it was delisted, essentially, there were about 70,000 properties across Europe and the United States. What percentage of that inventory do you expect to kind of move over to Spacest post-acquisition? And how much do you think you can gain in the next several months by kind of recuperating the brand?
Sure. It's not easy to give numbers here because we need to see how users will react, honestly speaking. But it has passed, I think, 2 weeks since we bought the domains, and we already have really a lot of landlords and tenants using our platform. especially in Germany, because they were really, really strong in Germany, being a German company.
Yeah.
So we think that we can really benefit a lot in the DACH area, but also, for example, in Spain, they were doing really a good job in Spain and also in Italy. So let's see in terms of numbers, but we expect really thousands of landlords and tenants coming in our platform in the next few months.
I remember when I was starting out with Truvi, then Guardhog, HomeLike were one of the first companies we spoke to about corporate. I think it was corporate stays, right? Back in those days,
Yeah,
back in
mainly.
those times, and they were focusing on the slightly longer booking. And they had a very good business model at the time, and I know they obviously struggled then later on. So you talk about this retention of landlords. Quite honestly, it's a trial in that respect. You're not 100% sure what will happen next. Is it that there is an existing portfolio of landlords that you just turn back on, or is it that people are finding the brand, using the domain, and then rejoining HomeLike? What's actually happening on the ground?
Yeah, actually, is the second option.
Yeah.
So right now, if you go on HomeLike, you are redirected on Spacest.com. Okay, so this is how users will know about Spacest.com. We have not bought their lenders list, let's say. So it has not been a bulk acquisition of users, but it's like a redirection on our website. So basically what happened now is that, of course, HomeLike, not only with their brand reputation, which was pretty well positioned, let's say, but also for a lot of keywords in our industry, let's say rent in Barcelona, rent in Berlin, they were very well positioned in the SEO. So that's why we were pretty interested in buying their trademarks and website, because right now, if people search for that keyword and the HomeLike website appears, then users can still have a good experience, but with Spacest.com.
Awesome.
That's what's happening now. Yeah.
Why was the acquisition made now and not before the company went bankrupt or closed its doors? Were you watching it while that happened, or did the opportunity come up afterwards?
Honestly speaking, we were not watching to buy HomeLike before they ceased operations. And the answer to your question is mainly a theme of price, topic of price. So unfortunately, HomeLike has really ceased operations, so they have stopped working. So we had the opportunity to buy some assets, separate assets from the liquidation. Okay. So it has really been a very interesting operation from the financial point of view, because we, honestly speaking, haven't spent that much amount of money in comparison with the value that this operation is already bringing and to bring in the future.
Awesome. Yeah. I want to talk regulation with you, if we can, Andrea. It's something that, unfortunately, it's a massive topic in the short-term rental industry, but even more so, and more often, it's becoming a topic in midterm rentals as well, long-term rentals. Many major European hubs, in particular, urban environments, are implementing all kinds of regulations, often sweeping and without data to back them up. But I'm curious sort of what the landscape is like, if you could comment in Italy, as well as maybe in some of the markets like Germany, where HomeLike was extremely strong, and kind of how that trickles down. So how you see sort of the landscape and maybe transitioning. I know this is something we see many rentals transitioning from short term more to midterm. So anyway, I'd love to kind of get your take on the regulatory landscape in Europe in particular.
Yes, it's a very hot topic right now. The point is that it seems like Airbnb and the short-term industry right now is the main reason of all the problems in the city centers, no? This is what the narrative seems to be. I don't agree with this vision, but in the end, of course, we need to accept the fact that Airbnb has given the opportunity to a lot of lenders to earn a lot of money with their property with short-term rentals. So, of course, those lenders won't ever rent their place for 1 year or 2 years to a lower amount. That's very easy to understand. And this means, of course, a shortage of supply for the mid long-term rentals and the increasing of prices and the opportunity to have a rent in a very, let's say, in a right amount of money, it becomes always more difficult. So we need to say that there's something right and something wrong in the narrative, but there is a problem. I don't know if the solution of all this regulation is the right one, but let's see. I know that in Italy, for example, and also, no, I would say mainly in Italy, we are between the last countries doing something to solve this problem, because from what I know, already in UK, already in Germany, there is a limit of nights, amount of nights per year that you can rent your place with Airbnb, which is 90. The same should be for France. And we all know what happened in New York, which has been maybe between the first cities to limit Airbnb. We know what's happening in Spain right now. So Italy probably is the last country to do something, but is not really, let's say, a unique regulation at the moment. For example, Florence is trying to be the leader in this new regulation topic and is saying we are stopping to give new licenses for Airbnb, like in Barcelona. But the other cities are not doing the same thing. So there's no national regulation at the moment. There is a lot of chaos. What there is instead is a lot of regulation in terms of safety, emergency, new kind of license that everybody should apply, and show in the Airbnb that they have this license, new rules in terms of verification of the identity of the guest, which could be also a very important thing. But sometimes Italy, it's a very funny place, you know, that in the end we come up with this strange regulation like you need to verify the identity of the guest in person. So imagine this: if you're a property manager and you're renting thousands of nights per year, you need to verify every single guest in person. You should choose your business because it can be financially sustainable. So it's something a little bit crazy sometimes, but I think that all the times it happens that you go on the very extreme and then you find the balance. No, probably. What we're seeing is that this is helping probably our industry in the mid-long-term rentals. And this is not only good for me and our industry in general, but also for people, because in the end, people need place to stay with an affordable rent. That's it. So it's very important. And I think that we are exactly in the middle, a right balance between the very long-term contract and the short-term one. Because what is happening now is that it is not only a topic, in my opinion, of regulation, but it's also a topic of real return on the investment. Because, for example, for the very long-term contract, you have two big problems, at least in places, in countries like Italy, Spain, Portugal, I'm sure, Germany too, that, first of all, you don't have flexibility. Because imagine you have your house and maybe you have a child and you decide to rent a place, but then maybe in 1 year, your son can come back home and need a house. If you rent your place in Italy, we have this standard contract, which is 4 year plus 4 year. You can't have back your home. So there's no flexibility at all. And secondly, the government is not doing anything if the tenant is not paying the rent. So if the apartment is basically occupied in Italy, you don't have any kind of insurance from the government, any kind of help. So we have heard a lot of lenders saying, if I need to rent a place for the long-term contract, I prefer not to rent at all. So that's one big problem. And the third big problem with the standard long-term contract is that you earn really less money. The return on the investment is smaller, both of our meter and the short term. On the other side, instead you have the short-term rental, which has been like the top investment in terms of ROI for the past few years. But now things are changing, not only for regulation, in my opinion, but also because the topic of supply and demand. Now you have really a lot of listings on Airbnb, really a lot. So if you want to keep your occupancy rate high, you need to lower the prices. So unless you are in the very city center, the real net return is not better than the midterm rental. And this is also because if you look at the gross income with Airbnb, you will earn more money, in my opinion. But then you have to put a lot of costs. Airbnb is asking on average 15%, Booking is asking 18%, more or less, this is the price. But then you have the property managers, because you can't do check-in, check-out, cleanings every 2 nights if you're working. So you have to give another 20 to 25% to a property manager. If you go on the last line of your, let's say, balance sheet for the apartment, you see that the net return sometimes, in the most cases, if you're not in the very city center and if you have not a big apartment, it's less than the midterm. Because with the midterm, the gross, it's good, but we ask for the 5% of the total amount, of the total rent value as a commission, only 5%. So you don't have a lot of cost. This is my take, let's say, scenario in terms of short term, long term, and the midterm.
For me, it takes me to Sarah, points you make about Barcelona and how the usage is not just people coming in for 4 or 5 nights. It is people who might have a business or work remotely, digital nomads who, do you know what? It's much nicer to spend February, March, and April in Barcelona or the Amalfi Coast than it is to spend it in Denmark or London. Well, unfortunately, we're not in the EU club anymore, so it's not as easy for our people to do that. But, you know, this idea of flexible living really, really comes to mind. And I think, so for me, it has to be part of the mix in any city. Is that right, Andrea? Is that who your typical customer is? It's a nomad. It's someone part of the digital economy, someone that has that flexibility to travel and work simultaneously.
Yeah, it's a part. If I want to be honest, mainly the real digital nomads at the moment, if they're looking for a midterm stay, like let's say 1, 2, 3 months, they're still going on Airbnb. So Airbnb is really very strong in this kind of targets. Okay, it's also super interesting. I don't know the more recent year. I still need to check, but I remember that in 2024 balance sheet of Airbnb, the total amount of revenue coming from rents of more than 30 days, it accounts for more than 30% of the total revenue of Airbnb, which is a huge share. If you think that in 2020, it was 0 before COVID, 0 revenue from stays higher than 30 days. So this means that Airbnb is really looking with interest in the midterm, and they are very strong with digital nomads. A platform like Spacest.com instead is more focused on a little bit longer stays. Okay, so students and managers relocating for 6 months, 1 year, 1 year and a half. This is our core target. Then we also have a lot of digital nomads, especially like you, Leo, correctly mentioned, those places where in the period of the year, the weather, it helps. No, Spain, Portugal, we have a lot of digital nomads going there. But we are working very well also in Germany, for example. or in France, or in Milan, where the weather is not that great in the end, even if it's Italy. So there, the reason to use Spaces, it's a little bit another one, is that you are a student, you want to do an experience, you want to do an Erasmus, you want to do a master, or you're a manager going to live in another city to exploit an opportunity of work.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, look, Andrea, thank you for explaining the deal to us. Congratulations. It sounds like it's initially working as you wanted it to. And also, we've now got you in our phone book. So expect a phone call whenever something interesting happens in Italy. We're going to want your opinion on it.
With pleasure, guys. With pleasure.
Perfect. Thanks, Andrea.
Thank you very much. Bye. Have a nice day.
You too, Andrea. Thanks.
What a nice guy Andrea is, eh? Big fan.
It was, for me, it was great to have somebody on with a bit of a different perspective, right? Because we often interview people or talk about short term. But in many places in Europe, kind of the short term, midterm, as Andrea was saying, like it's becoming much more fluid, and people who maybe formerly were doing short term or doing midterm, and maybe they're doing a combo. And so, yeah, I thought it was great. Also something I can actually speak to with personal experience because I'm not allowed to have a short-term rental in Barcelona because I live in a dictatorship. So I have a midterm rental. So it was great.
There you go. Andrea is now doubling as Sarah's therapist, which is great. Fantastic. Okay, Sarah, we've got an earnings call from booking.com. Talk us through it.
Oh man, this was interesting. Okay, so I'll go over first some of the results and then two other things. There's one that for me was like a bit gossipy. So we'll finish with that one because of course everyone hates gossip. So let's go over results. No surprise here. Growth is still really slow for Booking.com in the US. Overall, Booking is observing lower ADRs and a shorter length of stay and a shorter booking window. They think it's US consumers being more careful. I think it's that Americans don't have vacation. And when they do, it's limited and they don't always know if they're going to have it. And depends on if you have a big project. They don't have, 4 to 6 weeks like most Europeans. So I think they're probably not right on that one. But lower ADRs, shorter booking window is kind of the big takeaway. Marketing expenses as a percentage of growth. So basically, they vastly reduced marketing spend in the second quarter of 2024. So compared with the same time last year, they have increased overall marketing spending. So that's a good thing. And as a whole, they are going to be increasing their guidance for the rest of 2025. So Booking.com is optimistic in these results. Kind of the second trend of the release is that they are making really big bets, continuing to make big bets on these connected trips, mostly powered by AI. So they're really investing in AI to make sure these connected trips happen. They reached a real milestone in Q2 with the connected trips. So they had it as a low double-digit share. So that's up 30% year over year of people booking these connected trips, which is where you book not only your accommodation, but maybe your flight or maybe a car or some kind of additional service, all in the same package. And in particular, those who were including flight tickets along with their reservation for accommodation, this was up 44%. This is huge because overall Booking.com reports seeing an increase in loyalty, so repeat reservations and repeat bookings from those who have already reserved a connected trip. So this is definitely a big loyalty play for them. And it seems to be working a lot better than, maybe some of the other loyalty programs, which is points related or more discount related. It seems to be driven more by just the ease of use. So you want to go to one platform, you're pretty sure you're getting the best deal. Even if you're not, it's an easy process. So that was an interesting one. And then this is a bit more of sort of the gossipy one. So they talk about their transformation program, which basically is a way for them to cut $450 million worth of spend per year. So it's this encompasses the layoffs that have been announced. In fact, when they released and were talking about, we're making big improvements in the transformation program, all of the disgruntled ex-employees and some current employees anonymously took to social media to basically say, hey, it's because of the layoffs and they're not the first round and they're not going to be the last round. Booking was a bit coy on this. And also for me, some of the results were a little bit kind of shady the way they're reported. So they basically, in their earnings, they reported $45 million in savings during the quarter from this transformation program, in particular as it relates to sales and other expenses, so personnel, let's say. However, they omitted from the adjusted results for Q2 $38 million in transformation costs. So I'm assuming this is things like severance. This is things like paying to break leases early, because another big thing that they're doing, and as part of these layoffs, it's also to save money on the buildings where these people were going to work. So I don't know. That one was an interesting one for me. And the comments essentially from Booking.com are all around the fact that they are undergoing organizational changes and there will be more to come. And it was all very coy. But essentially, the ultimate goal of this transformation program is let's cut costs by $450 million a year. So it was an interesting way to kind of end the earnings. There was definitely some backlash on social media and some skepticism, I'd say, around what the true motives of those transformation costs are. And also that coupled with the investment in AI, there's speculation as well on social media, like, is this just going to get worse? Because AI is going to take over a lot of the jobs that previously were done by people that were people. So that's the summary, Leo. So I hope that was a lot, but
yeah, no, it was really interesting. Thanks. And I always like a bit of gossip, as you know. I suppose the share price didn't move, right? Share price kind of stayed the same off the back of this. So it was a bit of a kind of steady as she goes, I suppose. Earnings call. What I would add is I think you pulled out the most interesting part from it, which is the connected trips. So we've talked about this previously on the pod. The fact that having the flights, the transfers, the car hire in your wheelhouse, or in your arsenal, let's put it that way, might just become really, really important as a strategic play when it comes to AI trip planning, more so than previously has been. I think I accidentally rented a car with Booking.com once because I didn't realize it was one of their car rental companies. So I've definitely used different services from Booking.com. I don't ever booked a flight, but clearly if they can thread that together, and I don't think we're even just talking about their own AI. I think we're talking about Operator from ChatGPT and different such AIs that might favor getting all of that from one place, right? Because it means less processing, less transactions, and everyone knows that credit card transactions are risky. So the less of them you can do with the more well-known company, the safer the experience might feel. And the truth is, we don't know. There's a lot of unknowns here, aren't there, around what the AI agent will favor in this example, and therefore also what buying patterns will be in the future, whether Booking.com have a chance of creating their own AI agent and people using it to book connected trips. So I think that's some of the betting that's going on right now, and I can't say any more than that because I don't think it's clear the way the wind will blow with consumer behavior. So, but I can definitely imagine that there's ruffled feathers where there's people being laid off and then heavy investment going in this direction. It's probably inevitable for a while that this will happen. Don't think it's inevitable long term, and I think at some point I think it's overstated what it will do to the workforce. AI, I do believe it's overstated, but I can see in the short term, you probably do need to reorientate more towards AI, and therefore that there might be a short-term hit. So I think it's challenging, and then we have to be respectful because when people lose their jobs, it's never nice. And we're all connected with people in the industry from that company and see things on LinkedIn and want to wish everybody all the best. So yeah, I'd say it's a kind of middling day for Booking.com, and the share price probably correctly reflects that.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
All right. Okay. Well, look, here we go. We got our friends over at Rental Scale Up, or what do we call it now? RSU, powered by the company that owns them. They have done an interesting, Uvica has done an interesting look at Airbnb's latest couple of ad campaigns. And Sarah, I don't know, do you get served Airbnb ads on YouTube? I always seem to get them.
I do get Airbnb ads on YouTube. I haven't seen any of these, but it might just be, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I rarely get Airbnb ads in Spain.
Yeah, okay, there you go. Yeah. So I have got these, and I think and I really like. Can I just say I really like Airbnb's style with these ads.
Yeah, I do too.
I think they're nailing it, right, and it's going back to what they are best at, which is and when I say best at, I mean from a marketing perspective, because as we've just heard from Andrea as well, 30% of their revenue comes from what might be considered midterm stays. So that's not quite what they're pitching here in these different ad campaigns. But what they're very good at marketing themselves at is being the way to make some money from your property when you want to go out of town, right? And so for me, it's a long time coming. They built the hosting program on Airbnb, and now they're really trying to double down on usage of it. So the first ad focuses on somebody feeling overwhelmed, which is called, I got the name of it, and it is, I think it's really good. It's called Sidekick, the campaign, and it's a good ad. Check it out. And it's the fact that you can use the hosting, the Airbnb's own hosting network to find people to support you in the process, making the whole experience of hosting less daunting. Why is this crucial? Well, I think that the average host getting into Airbnb may have reservations about doing it. And what that then does is it's building a market. It's not cannibalizing one that already exists, because I don't think you need Airbnb's hosting community if you're already on Booking, Vrbo, you've got a PMS, you've got a direct booking website. So it's that really smart move. We've talked about this before, is Airbnb trying to bring new supply onto the market, which we like. And you can also read the Nutfest article advert in the same way. Obviously, Edinburgh Festival started this weekend, so I think we're all thinking about that. Well, it's summer, isn't it? So there's lots of that sort of stuff going on. But another thing that Airbnb does really well marketing wise, it always attaches itself to these events that put stress and strain on the accommodation supply in a city, but for a really short amount of time. In the case of Edinburgh Festival, it's a month. In the case of the Paris Olympics, it's 3 weeks. In the case of the Euros, wherever they happen to be in Europe, it's 2 to 3 weeks as well. And they're always very good at attaching themselves and marketing around those events, because there is nothing better than short-term rental to solve that problem. Locals want to get out. We just had it in Pride in Brighton. It's not for everybody, the fact that people are partying till 2 a.m. We really like it. But for lots of people, it's a chance to go camping and make 500 quid from your home. So it's the exact scenario, I think, that Airbnb wants to be aligning themselves with, because it's suggesting, look, we're not taking supply off the long term or the sales and letting market. What we're doing is we're creating new hosts that can add value and revenue to your neighborhood, because the guest comes in and they're spending money in your local cafe and shops. So I really liked it. I think it's good. There's obviously some challenges to it, which is that how true is it versus what actually is going on. I think Airbnb is a byword for all types of rental now. And as Andrea said, even slightly longer term rental. But again, I think they're probably heading in the right direction. And someone in the marketing team has got this right, in my opinion. What do you think, Sarah?
I think these two were particularly interesting to me, keeping in mind that in 2023, Airbnb removed over 400,000 what they called underperforming listings. So essentially, it was this exact kind of supply, but without the guiding hand of a co-host. And that's what I think they've done in a smart way. They've basically systematically removed listings that were terrible and had really bad reviews or weren't performing. Then they launched the co-hosting program. So they're kind of laying the framework to now say, okay, if you list for X number of nights a year, you should just get a co-host. So they're essentially trying to take back control of that supply. So they want to add new supply, which I think is smart. They want to add supply that ebbs and flows with demand, which I think is one of the things that Airbnb is great at, that, for example, hotels and other types of accommodation cannot rise to meet. And I think they're doing it smart by saying, we want to make sure that we have some kind of quality standard throughout these properties. And they're doing that through those owners using professional co-hosts. I think where it gets sticky is regulation. So like in Barcelona, I can't do that. In many European cities, you can't do it, even if you wanted to. And there's also another interesting phenomenon which is coming up. In fact, I put mine on. We're going away for 2 weeks in August. And I put my property on there. And it's basically one of those home swap platforms. So, I can list my property in Barcelona for 2 weeks in August. I don't get paid anything. the person who comes pays a cleaning fee. And so somebody comes in to clean the apartment before and after they leave. And the keys, I think you just leave with a neighbor, or I could leave it at like a bar or the post office or somewhere right next to me. And then essentially I earn credits. So then the next time that I want to go on holiday, I can go and stay in somebody else's property. And this somehow is not illegal, but charging for it is. So it's the same thing as like, I don't know if I can say this on the pod, but it's the same thing as like prostitution. Should it be legalized or not? Tons of people go out on a Friday night and do what they're going to do, and they don't get paid for it. But as soon as there's money exchanging hands, oh, we got a problem. So I think it's the same. It's the same sort of concept, and there's going to be a regulatory concern for sure.
I think that's right, isn't it? I've always thought the New York, New York and Kindred is the example, isn't it, that people give for home swap platforms, where it's like they found a really good loophole. That's why that business is valued. It has raised so much money, I think. Where I go with it is I can't stop thinking about the uniqueness of the inventory in all of the acquisitions, mergers, takeovers we're seeing at the moment from the bigger players. So when Holodoo make a play, Home2Go make a play, but let's focus on Holodoo. It's with a view to taking old school inventory from different parts of Europe, rural, coastal, like going to the hard to reach places where people have used the same OTA. It's a listing site, but they don't do any management because they have their own cleaner, but they are that listing platform is kind of their manager, because they're not putting it all over Airbnb. They're not putting it all over Vrbo, Booking.com.
Yeah. And
so Holodoo brings it in, puts it under its PMS as well, and starts syndicating that listing in a really, really smart way. Airbnb here, this can be seen as their technique for doing such a thing, right? It's like, It's not that they're not targeting specific areas. They're just targeting a specific type of avatar. And that avatar is someone who is time poor, interested in listing, and wants to give it to the co-hosting network, lose 15%, and off you go. I'm not quite sure what the fees are on the co-hosting network. So it's super smart. We woke up to the news from Australia this morning, didn't we, Sarah, that Oyo, who are not shy in buying big companies, both property managers and platforms at the same time, have bought Made Comfy. So they're one of Australia's largest property management companies, 1,300 listings, really successful business there in the space.
Yeah.
Again, same thing, right? Own that supply. It's just a different way of getting there. You're not, Airbnb's trying to create, these guys are trying to buy. So again, I like it, and I like it for Airbnb. I think it's a really smart move. Again, can everything be seen at the moment as a defensive play against AI? I think that's probably overstating it, maybe, to say everything is, but it's definitely out there in people's minds. So having unique inventory, being closer to the supplier, becoming the supplier. And you mentioned it earlier, Booking.com, loyalty, same thing, right? It's that like doubling down on your supply, doubling down on your guests to make sure that you can keep them within your ecosystem seems to be very important.
Yeah. Totally agree.
Look, dude, Carl, we're well over time. This is classic us. Look, thanks so much, everyone, for joining us. And it would be silly not to mention the fact that Good Morning Hospitality was also in the news this week, and of course, we have been purchased by Skift. We're super excited to see what the future brings. Well done, certainly, to Will and Michael for building such an amazing company, and well done, Skift, for spotting the opportunity. So yeah, exciting. Hey, Sarah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super stoked about what the future brings, and it's going to be great times ahead.
Great. Well, look, that's it for today, guys. Anyone who's enjoyed today's show, please hit like, share, subscribe, and all the usual social places, and leave us a comment somewhere where we can read it. We want your feedback. We want to hear how the summer's going for you. It is firmly midsummer at the moment, so I hope everyone's coping with it. We look forward to seeing you again next week. Bye for now.